the junior women, they'll be quite nervous already, so beautiful weather always helps.
Let's take a look then at last year's race. It was a close contest, but it was, in the end, Roosmarijn Amelaan of the Netherlands who raced in to take the gold medal. She beat Camilla Alessio of Italy. And in the bronze medal position, it was Eleanor Backstead of Great Britain who raced in to take the third place. That was our podium. Two of the riders will be competing today. They were young juniors last year when they actually took to the start line. So as always, behind the scenes, everyone's getting ready for this 13.7 kilometre loop. This is the scenes behind the start ramp as the riders just get warmed up and get themselves ready for the race. Junior racing, of course, anything can happen. We could have a surprise. We could go to the normal form that we are expecting. And we're going to take a look at a moment in the course animation so you get an idea of what the riders will face. Junior gears are what the riders also have to comply with, so they will make sure that they do not have any larger gear than is allowed within the UCI rules. Rochelle, we're just going to have a look at the course, but as a junior, this is a really nervous moment, isn't it?
Oh, I think that it's going to be, the course is quite difficult because it's quite technical, but as we said, there's no rain here today, so that'll make it a little bit easier on the riders. And, you know, it's not every day they get to ride this equipment as well, so they'll be nervous about so many different things. Here's the course animation. Let us know, Anthony, how it looks.
This is the course then that the riders face. Today they loop out to the west of Harrogate towards the RHS Gardens and into the neighbouring countryside. There's a series of short and sharp little ascents, some technical descents as well. It's the same course that we saw the mixed relay on yesterday. There's lots of checks though, aren't there?
Yeah, with the time trial event there's lots of checks, and you really need to know. That's why I said a lot of these junior riders haven't ridden this equipment a lot, so you can see now they're having to change the position. And for a junior rider that may have just ridden the bike the last few days and a couple of times during the year, it's something that really adds to the nerves, you know, having to get used to that new position and just mentally knowing that something's been changed.
Yeah, and also like the commissaires will say to you, well, this is not what you're allowed to do. You saw that jig. He's going to make that rider tilt the bars down, and suddenly everything is not what they were expecting. Pros even get this, don't they? So the men's elite will go through this, and sometimes the UCI commissaires will ask them to just change something a couple of millimetres, and if you're at the very top of your game and you've been training like that for weeks and weeks and weeks, it can throw you off.
Absolutely. If I was asked to change a position on my bike that I've ridden for 15 years without changing a position, it would really throw me off. So, yeah, I think it's just about staying calm, and I'm sure that the coaches have talked to these young riders about the possibilities of having to change some things at the start.
This is the start list then, as we take a look through the riders who will line up and get on that start line. I think we're expecting, as we go through, riders that we know who we think will do a strong performance early on in this race. Megan Jastrab there, who goes for the United States of America. Amelia Sharp of Great Britain also. When we get down to Lucy Meyerhofer of Germany, we're anticipating that she could do a good ride today. But then really, as always, Rochelle, when we get into the last 10 riders, they're really the seeded riders we're expecting should go for the medals.
Yeah, well, the thing that's so exciting about junior racing, especially with the women, is that they don't have that many opportunities throughout the season to race together, so they don't really know their competition that well. So and for us, I mean, it's difficult, but it's exciting because we don't know if a rider's going to come out of the USA, for example, that we haven't seen race in Europe against other riders. So it's a very, very hard race to call and to know and to predict, but really, really exciting for junior racing to be able to come here and race on the same stage as the professional men and women and be able to look up to their heroes and be inspired. So it's a really big moment for the junior riders.
Well, last year, of course, we had that moment where very early in the race, Eleanor Backstead went off as one of the youngest riders in the field and ended up finishing on the podium. That can happen again today.
Yeah, we could most certainly have a rider come out early that we haven't really heard much of that does well. But, you know, all the training's done a lot with power these days, and even at the junior level, so they may know where they're at, whether they're at their best or whether they're struggling a little bit. But against the field, riders can come from anywhere here that we haven't seen before, and it's going to be a pretty exciting race to watch, not knowing, you know, what the riders are capable of.
They might catch us out. Let's see what happens. We're looking here then at the riders behind the scenes. You just caught a glimpse of the finish line, which is in Parliament Street at the top of that long drag up to the finish line. The first rider will be starting at 10:10, so not far away now from the start of this first rider to start, who will be Femke Gerritsen from the Netherlands. And then after that, all the riders will be going at 1.5 minute intervals all the way through until we get to the end of all the starting order of the riders going off this start ramp and getting into the ride itself. Helicopter shot looking down on the fan zone, which has been very busy. Of course, today is a working day in Yorkshire, so we may not have the same size crowds that we've had over the weekend. That's been packed. They had 30,000 people in the fan zone area over Saturday during the paracycling. So far it's been a very popular set of events, and I think when we get towards the weekend, when we have the big road races, this area is going to be absolutely packed with people. This is based down on the straight, and throughout the week there's going to be all sorts of live bands playing there as we see the first rider then up on the start ramp, and this is Femke Gerritsen of the Netherlands. We're going to see an intermediate time check around about 6.3 kilometres, but Femke Gerritsen gets this race underway on that huge start ramp, and we can hear the beeps as we get ready for this first rider to roll down and get going in this individual time trial. So the Netherlands yesterday took the gold. That will have motivated this young junior, Femke Gerritsen, as she makes her way down this very slidey start ramp.
Well, they're so strong in cycling, and even specifically in women's cycling, they're so strong. And I think one of the advantages, even in the juniors, for the riders from the Netherlands is that they have these women, you know, that they look up to in elite women's cycling, but they also have a very competitive junior scene. So the teammate of this rider out on the road is actually one of the favourites for today, so that means that would lift her level, having to, you know, try and be as good as her rival, and they actually race against each other in cyclocross. So yeah, really competitive nation, the Netherlands, even at a junior level.
Yeah, it's incredible, the strength in depth. And I guess if you're a junior rider, I remember talking to some juniors who have ended up as World Tour riders. And you know, I can think of riders like Tiffany Cromwell saying that when she went to her first World Championships, she was riding there as a young rider, and Cadel Evans won the world title. So she was immediately totally motivated. Let's just see Maria Bertelsen of Denmark about to go down the start ramp. This is the Danish rider, and the Danish team are always super strong in women's cycling.
Yeah, we saw in the team relay yesterday really disappointment for Julie Leth, one of Denmark's strongest female elite riders. She had a mechanical mishap, so that was very unfortunate for the Danish team, but they'll certainly have some experience to pass on to the junior riders for this course.
The only thing I would say about the Danes is they've now lost Catherine Marsal, who was their real motivator of women's cycling, wasn't she? Oh
yeah, she was such an inspiration. I actually had her as a director on a Danish team that I rode for back in my career in Team Sats. Yeah, no, really inspirational and motivational. So yeah, a bit of a loss for the Danish team, but back with Gerritsen now out on the road. She's actually the junior time trial champion of the Netherlands, so we could see a pretty good time posted early here in this competition.
Yeah, she looks really static on that bike, just keeping the cadence going, but a nice style, not too dissimilar actually. And it's interesting when I look at Dutch riders, how similar some of them have a position on a time trial bike to Marianne Vos. that nose right down on the hands and a very forward position.
Well, they're most likely all being set up and advised by the same group of people. So if they believe in a certain position, we'll see it across the nation's riders. It's a bit different in the men's in the pro teams because they're getting more advice from the pro teams. Now our first rider from France rolling off.
Yep, this is Léa Courinier of France as she makes her way out of this starting area. Again, the riders on junior gears, so they're restricted in the level of gear that they are allowed to ride as she settles into her rhythm. And the next rider to go will be from Germany, Paula Leonhardt. The German riders yesterday had a good day with them taking the silver medal. It's nice for a nation to get off the starting blocks as far as the medals are concerned. Out on the course though, Rochelle, today we can see that the roads are starting to dry up. Does that present problems?
It could definitely for punchers. It's the worst time to get a puncher, or the most likely time to get a puncher, should I say, when the roads are just drying up. You get sections of wet road and dry road. That's where you get that sticky feeling on the tyres and things tend to stick to it. So we might see a few punches out here on the road, and it's also a difficult, I think, judgment for the mechanics to know what kind of pressures to be putting in the tyres when you've got some really dry, fast sections of the course, and then in some of the dangerous corners it could be a little bit wet.
Paula Leonhardt then underway in a moment for Germany. Just getting herself positioned up here on the start ramp. But last night she will have been in the same hotel as the German elite riders when they came back with their medals. That's always a good moment. She rolls down the start ramp. I think this is the longest starting ramp I've ever seen in a World Championships.
They've got a really good setup here, actually, how they've got the start coming in off the side of the main road on the circuit. So they're not actually starting on the same road as the circuit. So we were wondering how it was going to work in the team relay yesterday, but it actually all worked out very, very well.
It did. It was a really nice setup. And the riders in the fan zone, so you had lots of fans able to just watch them on that start ramp. And then the finish area was nice and clean for the riders to race through. You had no issues with that whole swapping over situation. There was a few riders who wanted to go quickly and go early, but apart from that, nothing major happened, so that was good. It was nice to see a mixed team relay. This is Gerritsen spinning along, getting close now towards this first intermediate time split, which is where we will see and get an indication of how these riders are going. The first split is at 6.3 kilometres, only one split on the road. As we come back to the start ramp for South Africa, Kelsey Van Schuur is about to get started. Kelsey Van Schuur of South Africa waiting for that countdown, which the commissaires give them. And now makes her way again down this long straight. Nice crowd here this morning, considering we're on a Monday morning. Monday morning,
and yeah, but I think the beautiful weather here has probably attracted some people to come out of their hotels and get to the start early. But yeah, it's really nice for the juniors to have this type of atmosphere.
As we look down here on the Pump Room Museum, which is right in the local area on the course. And this is on the right as they make their way down Valley Gardens, built in 1842 by Isaac Schutt to provide some shelter for the affluent visitors who used to come to Harrogate to enjoy the spas. This is the French rider, 3.5 minutes, coming up to 4 minutes now into her time trial. Just trying to set the rhythm. And you said that the juniors are now riding to power, and that is a big difference over the last 10 years, I would say. A junior would not have been riding to any power whatsoever.
Yeah, no, I think when I was riding as a junior, it was just about going out and riding to feel, wasn't it? So
yeah.
As much time as you had before and after school, and where the safe roads were to go on. But now a lot of this training, especially for a time trial, can be done on an indoor trainer with power. So I think riders are much more familiar with power, and they want to aspire to be able to push the type of powers they read online that the elite women are doing. So it's a little bit of a judgment there. And you know, there's all these new online cycling programs now that you can ride against people. So things like that, I think, promote the idea of just checking out what you're capable of doing, power outputs and stuff like that.
And it makes a massive difference, because then once you go out on the road, you do feel a lot stronger.
Yeah, if you do your training and you know what you're capable of, you might feel like you're going slow, but if you know you're pushing that power, then you know that you're doing okay. And that's something about, I think, that will play in the hands to the Great Britain hope today, Ellie Backstead, is that she knows the feeling of these roads. So it's heavy and it's sluggish compared to some hot mixes that you get in other countries. So other riders might feel like, without having a power meter on their race bike, they might feel, I'm not going so well, you know, this is hard. But Ellie Backstead, she actually really knows these roads really well. She rode the Tour of Yorkshire in the elites this year, so she certainly does know these roads and the feeling, and I think that'll be a huge advantage.
And you say that she rode the Tour of Yorkshire as we go back to the start for the Czech Republic. This is Kristina Burlova, who's about to get underway. She didn't just ride the Tour of Yorkshire, she was up at the front on junior gears as a junior rider, setting things up for attacks and everything. It was incredible to watch.
Yeah, look, I think it was a brilliant idea, a very smart move to be in that race and to be in Yorkshire on these roads. And, you know, it's a little bit scary, but it's such an advantage that the riders in Europe have, say, in comparison to the Australians, who it's too hard to travel to race against, you know, elite European riders. But to have that opportunity for Ellie Backstead, I think is fantastic. So, yeah, she has a very good chance here. I mean, we don't want to put too much pressure on her, but she hasn't had the best preparation, but I think she really does have a chance.
Let's see what happens. This is looking down on the Royal Hall, which is a Grade 2 listed performance hall and theatre. It's over 100 years old. It was reopened by Prince Charles in 2008 after it had a big restoration costing around £8 million. That's one of the focal areas. We're getting close to this intermediate time split for Femke Gerritsen of the Netherlands, and still looking strong, has hardly moved out of that position at all. And as you said, Rochelle, riding to power, she's riding a really efficient way along this course.
I think she looks like she knows exactly you know, what's within her capabilities, and a very well paced out ride. So like I said, we might see a fast time posted by her.
Annika Lehner of the Swiss team about to get started. Rolls down this start ramp, the really wide start ramp, but it was built so that you could have 3 teams next to each other in the mixed team relay. So you had the opportunity that if 3 teams came into the finish line together, then there was the option that all 3 could start at once, which would have been interesting through the first corner, but that is why it was built like that. Femke Gerritsen then coming up to the 6.3 kilometre time split, which we've been used to up here. She's going to set the standard for all the other riders to face. It's just at the top here as you start to swing right. She goes over to the right-hand barrier, and she's trying to take, where possible, the smartest way to the finish line. 11:12.49. Average speed 33.725 kilometres an hour. As we see this French rider going whooshing through these corners. And it's not an easy course, is it? This is a really tricky section. Yeah,
it's all about carrying that speed onto the uphill section, because the more speed you lose through those corners, okay, it's safer, but you lose so much time when you hit the climb. You really need to try and carry the speed into the climb. So they would have been out there riding over this course and been through it a few times, especially the tricky sections.
Our next starter is Camille Primo of Canada. And Camille about to get underway, rolls down that ramp. The weather conditions improving all the time. Looking outside the commentary box window, that 13 kilometre an hour wind doesn't look like 13 kilometres an hour. It looks like it's calmed down quite considerably. There's no real movement in the trees at all. A little bit sheltered here, but not so much. This is Lena of Switzerland. Really bracing that position, keeping the cadence very, very high indeed. When you're on these junior gears, you wonder if everyone's restricted how anyone is able to go faster than the other. But it is possible. You look at someone like Eleanor Backstead and also Camila Alessio. They ride very, very high cadence, but they get so much power through the pedals.
I do think it's a good idea to have the juniors restricted on gears because it teaches them how to pedal really well. And yeah, you can make a huge difference, and you need to obviously train for high cadence, but on this course there's not a lot of long downhills where it'll come into a massive advantage. So I still think the stronger type of riders with a lot of technical skills will excel on this type of course. A rider who knows the course well and has experience, because you need to be composed. Like, you can be overwhelmed by all the small things. First, you need to know your bike really well before you even come here. And do riders spend enough time on their time trial bike? That's a big question, but you need to be comfortable on your equipment. You need to be, then you need to come here and know the course really well before you start. But then on race day, you need to be calm and collective, because to pick these lines, like we've seen a lot of the riders do, we saw the Dutch rider, Goritza, she picked it really, really well. But you need to be relaxed to be able to think of all those things while you're out there on the bike and not forget any of the important things.
Just going through the intermediate time split, Leah Courinier of France goes fastest, so new fastest time, 10:47.09. And Femke Gerritsen starting to labour a little bit now as she makes her way to this next point. And I think she's reflecting on what Rochelle has been saying. The roads feel really dead. When you ride in Yorkshire, what they haven't done here, which is what generally happens in other World Championships, is, Rochelle mentioned a moment ago, the hot mix that you sometimes see, which it makes it feel like a Formula One track. You literally come out here to a World Championships and think, wow, this is super, super fast. What Yorkshire haven't done is change the surface of their roads. They haven't gone away from how tough Yorkshire bike racing is. As we just see the start of the Mexican rider, Victoria Velasco. She's about to get started, one of the younger riders in this field, born in 2002. But that's different. When I remember, probably the slickest roads that I remember from a World Championships in recent years was in Firenze in 2013 in Italy. It felt like you were riding on a Formula One track. Here, no way. It feels hard, bumpy, tough. You feel like you're riding through treacle.
Yeah, it certainly is a huge, huge difference in different nations and different places around the world. And that's why I say not a lot of riders will be familiar with this feeling. And it can play a lot in the minds of the riders, especially in a time trial. You can't look around and see the expressions on other people's faces and see how they might be feeling, or their body language, their cadence, how fast they're pedaling, things like that. So it's something that riders that have experience with this type of feeling of the road can really take advantage of. And like I said, some riders will be riding to power in this race, but not a lot of them. So that's the only real gauge they can get on how they're actually going out there on the course in relation to their own maximum efforts.
Just to update you then, the fastest rider to the intermediate time split, an average speed of 35.049 kilometres an hour, is Leah Courinier. She is the current leader. 10 minutes 47.09. Second fastest is Paula Leonhardt of Germany, 8 seconds down. As we go back to the start ramp and we see the start of Natalia Kryczlak of Poland, who is about to go down the ramp and get underway. The next rider to go will be one of the riders that we've kind of had a think about, Megan Jastrab of the United States of America. So we see the Polish rider go. Megan Jastrab, then, a rider who is really strong, a very good road rider. We've seen her win a World Cup. She's a potential winner of this race.
Yeah, she certainly should definitely be up there. And it's like you said, she's we've seen her race internationally with the juniors around the world this year, and she does definitely have a very good chance of winning the road race. She'll be one of the favourites there. The question is, how is her time trialling form and how will she go here? So it's going to be interesting to see her splits out on the road.
She's a rider who rides for Rally UHC Cycling. She's a member of that squad, a very young member of that team. And we think back to 2015 and when the American riders dominated their home World Championships in the junior ranks. Chloe Dygert was the first time we ever got to see her race. She won the title ahead of Emma White, her teammate. Both those riders still pro riders, still riding at a very, very high level as Gerritsen makes her way in towards the conclusion of this time trial. Oh, that was very, very close. Took a very wide line into that little corner. And here is Megan Jastrab. So we know that the American team do focus on this racing. They do like to bring the juniors through. They've won medals before. And Jastrab, I remember her winning Trofeo Binda, which was earlier on in the season in Citilio in Italy. And she had a huge chase to get herself back onto the peloton and then came through to take the win.
Yeah, it's a very prestigious race for the juniors. So to take that win, I guess, boosted her confidence. But she did have consistent races throughout the season in Europe as well. The Healthy Aging Tour, which is a really, really important race for the juniors. A couple of stages in the GC there. She's won a couple of world titles on the track. So she definitely has to be one of the favourites here. And an early rider off, so it'll be interesting to see the time splits at the halfway mark for these riders.
Well, the time split still Leah Courinier of France is the leader as we see the next rider making her way down. This is Annika Lina as she goes into this left-hand turn. I don't think she's really enjoying these little corners. They are some adverse camber. You've got to really lean into them. There's still wet roads and you can shave off a lot of speed as she did there.
Yeah, it's very tricky, I think, these corners. And like I said, the riders are probably not so familiar with their time trial bikes, and they've been very focused on their form for the World Championships. And then you come here, you have a very short amount of time, sometimes only 1 day or 2 days, to be out on the course and look at those corners. So.
And Dorte Island of Norway about to go through this first little corner. In terms of the last few years, the medals have gone last year to the Netherlands, Italy the year before to Elena Pironi, and she beat her teammate into second place. The year before that was Carlin Swinkels of the Netherlands. The Netherlands have won the last 2 out of 3. Chloe Dygert the year before, Macy Stewart of Australia in 2014, then Séverine Rowe of France in 2013, and before that, Eleanor Barker of Great Britain, who beat Cecilia Uttrup Ludwig into second place and Demi de Jong into third. When you look through, Rochelle, names of riders who have ended up in the World Tour, this does give you the indication.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I find extremely strange is that Australia's been so successful at the junior level, and they've come to this World Championship with no junior women. So there's no junior women here in this time trial today. We don't know exactly why, so we're looking forward to hearing why that decision was made. But they've always been quite strong in the junior women, so interesting.
It is strange, isn't it? You would have anticipated that. Certainly when I was looking through last night and thinking who can win this race, I was looking for the Australian. Because you always do, because they've always got a really strong contingent as Diana Bukanova goes off the start. And I'm as surprised as you, because you always have an Australian rider in with a chance of a medal.
Yeah, very disappointing, but you know, they've obviously got a plan behind things, and we do know that they've cut back a little bit on their women's road development, which is probably a part of the reason why they're not here. But you know, the Olympics are coming up next year, and it looks like Australia's putting a lot of effort into that. So unfortunately and it's strange too, because at the moment, like last year at the Elite Women's Road Race, we were second with Amanda Spratt, so
yep.
A little bit disappointing. But I mean, also Great Britain, they seem to have so many female champions in the past, but they don't specifically, like the Italians or the Dutch, put a lot of finances behind their junior women.
Exactly, but at some point you've got to invest in those junior women to bring them through to end up making them the top riders in the world.
Yeah.
You look at Eleanor Barker, who was the winner in 2012, but specifically Great Britain had a programme looking after the junior women. At that time, as we see Gerritsen coming in towards the finish, at that time the team was managed by Matt Winston. Matt Winston is now one of the directors at Team Sunweb, and he had a group of women riders who he really focused on and brought through. the riders he had, Eleanor Barker, Lucy Garner, all those, they've all ended up being top women riders.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen so many champions, and it's so inspiring too for young women to develop with the heroes like Lizzie Armitstead, Emma Pooley, Nicole Cook that they've had. So, but I don't think the British women went to the European Championships, and that's something that the British Cycling Federation don't invest in, which I find extremely strange. You know, we have a chance today with Great Britain to win the women's individual time trial in the juniors, so lack of funding going into the juniors doesn't seem to be actually resulting in no results for the women.
Yeah, true.
At elite level.
True.
But maybe we could have more champions.
Maybe we could have more. Here comes the first rider to the line. This is Femke Gerritsen of the Netherlands. She's going to set the standard for everyone else to beat. She looked like she rode the first half of this time trial really strongly. She looks like she's suffered over the second half, which is very hard as she goes past the famous Betty's Tea Rooms on the left-hand side, which has got, without doubt, the best cakes in Harrogate, and we went there last night. Femke Gerritsen coming up to the finish line then. It's a really hard finish up Parliament Street. It looks flat. It's nowhere near flat. It's very, very hard, that final rise up to the line, but Femke Gerritsen is going to set the standard for everyone else to beat as she reaches the line now, and her time comes up and she finishes in 24:05.45 at the finish line for Femke Gerritsen of the Netherlands. That is the time now to beat. So we'll see how that compares as she is then, we then see the rest of the riders coming in.
She looks like she's put a good effort in there, but we just really don't have any idea, do we, until we see some of the other riders come in, how strong that ride was. As we said, her teammate Van and Roy is going to be one of the favourites for today, and the Netherlands, I mean, they're always strong in across all disciplines.
They certainly are. She's recovering now after that effort. We haven't got the time come up on our screen yet, so hopefully that will be fixed and we'll be able to give you all the updates of all the riders. Our next rider coming in towards the finish then is Paula Leonhardt. Out on the course still the fastest rider, Leah Courinier. Our next rider is about to get started. This is Amelia Sharp of Great Britain. And Amelia Sharp is about to get going. She's been riding alongside Eleanor Backstead in many of the international races that they've ridden. A rider who could produce a very, very good time trial here. There's some good hopes for her. Coming up to the finish line then, the rider who's been setting the pace out on the course. This is the French rider, Leah Courinier, who's about to get to the line now. Has ridden, to me, a really good race. She's ridden a high cadence all the time. She's going to beat Femke Gerritsen by just under 1 minute. Not far to the finish line now for her. She's a slight rider, but she doesn't half produce some power on the bike as she makes her way to the line.
She looks like she's putting in a huge effort here to get to the finish line. She would probably have an idea that she's on a pretty good ride, just judging from her own capabilities, but also the time of the first rider. So she beats Gerritsen by 34 seconds. Not bad.
That's a very good performance. Courinier, top of the leaderboard by 34 seconds. So she sets the pace, and everyone else now has to beat that. We're still not getting our times at the finish line here, but we've seen them on the screen. We'll try and get our technicians to fix that. That was a hard effort.
You'll see a lot of time trialers cross the line, but see the rider from Denmark now, Bertelsen, she comes in 2 minutes down. Really strong ride from the French rider there.
23 minutes 31 seconds was her time.
Well, she has a great role model in Pauline Ferrand-Prévot to look up to, and also time trial specialist Audrey Cadon-Rago.
Well, yesterday, Pauline Ferrand-Prévot won her second world title in a month. Considering that she has had really troubled times over the last couple of years, she's firmly back.
Yeah, there was a big question mark over whether she would get back, but she certainly has in fine style. So some fantastic results there, and something for the young junior women to look up to.
Absolutely. Here comes the next rider, trying to eclipse the time of Courinier of France, but it's not going to happen. Leonhardt comes up to the line and is 6.24 seconds slower than the time of the French rider. So the time to beat, 23 minutes 31 seconds by Courinier of France, and she has been setting the pace out on the course. Amondarian of Spain has just gone through the intermediate split with the 7th fastest time, 11:16.04.
Well, the French rider, she'll be off to the hot seat. This is a very nice time trial position from Sharp. It's a little bit of a drag up here. You can see that she's really labouring, but she's certainly got a really nice position there set up on her bike. You see those long socks. We bet they've been measured this morning, as we saw yesterday in the mixed team relay. That the socks are being measured by the commissaires. We saw some of the measurements being done on the bikes just to make sure they were all fully compliant and legal, but we didn't see any shots this morning of measuring the socks, but we did see some riders yesterday having to lower their socks.
But you did tell me this morning, because I was talking to you about sock length, that it makes a difference.
Yeah, it's interesting that we talk about it because it seems like such an irrelevant rule from the UCI, but Chris Boardman, who is an absolute specialist in aerodynamics and any technical aspect of cycling, just ask Chris, he'll know. And he's actually said from all the scientific testing that having longer socks, for example, if you could have them up to just under your knee, would give you, on this circuit, 14 kilometres, a 2 to 3 second advantage. And that's why they're measuring the socks. Material's much faster than the skin.
That's incredible to think that just over that short circuit that it would make that much of a difference, but Chris Boardman knows. He's done all the checks.
He certainly has.
Yeah, no doubt whatsoever. Sofia Shevchenko of the Ukraine about to get through this first corner. Just started has been Leah Svarinska of Latvia and also Daniela Campos of Portugal. Still, Leah Courinier is the fastest rider at the intermediate split. This is Megan Jastrab choosing to ride not on the aero bars, but choosing to put her hands onto the normal bars at the left and right hand side. So she's not thinking it's going to make any difference. She's just focusing on keeping the power on all the way up to the first intermediate split, which she's already gone through. Jastrab then, can she set the pace for everyone else to beat? Let's wait and see whether that's possible. Everywhere along the course, people are coming in as crowd to just try and see a glimpse of these riders. There's no doubt Yorkshire absolutely love their bike racing, and they will support everything they possibly can. As we see Van Schuur of South Africa come in 1 minute 35.41 seconds down. Didn't see anything of her out on the course.
No, I think, oh, here we have another Danish rider on the start ramp.
This is Mette Jensen.
Yeah, the second Danish rider of today out on the women's junior course.
And the Danes over the last few years have had some great performances. Pernille Mathisen was the silver medalist in 2014 behind Macy Stewart and ahead of Annalisa Hull. And I mentioned earlier, Cecilia Uttrup Ludwig was the silver medalist in 2012 behind Eleanor Barker. Here's our hot seat with Courinier there in the middle and Paula Leonhardt also on the podium with Femke Gerritsen. We're not getting any updates on our screen yet, Rochelle, so we'll try and get a technician to fix that. Seems like everything is a little bit frozen, but we're getting some of the intermediates time splits and not all the others, but we'll see whether we can get that fixed and we can keep everybody up to date with what is going on. Amelia Sharp is out on the course. She looks comfortable at this moment in time. She makes her way around that right-hander, and Amelia Sharp just gets out the saddle as much as she possibly can. Interesting, the juniors have their radios in at the moment.
Oh, I think it's very interesting. I've just been looking at that, wondering myself. I was going to say earlier that the juniors won't have radios, which makes a big difference, not getting that information and feedback out on the course, but they do have radios here today. They've all got them. You can see if you look very closely, just behind their helmet on the back, you'll often see a bump. They're getting information from the car behind them, so they can keep their head looking down in that most aerodynamic position. They can get information that it's 100 metres to the corner, 70 metres, 50 metres, and they don't need to look up until the last minute, and they can be told when to take the pressure off the pedals. It's just, it is a huge advantage to be riding with a race radio. You can get that motivation from your coaches as well. So 2 riders finishing there, absolutely exhausted. But this just shows us that the time from the French rider set already is a pretty fast time.
It is a pretty fast time by Courinier. She has set the standard for all the riders to beat. And she just looked efficient. But here we see the arrival of the Swiss rider, Lena. Can she eclipse the time of Courinier? Doesn't quite manage to, goes into second place, 2.14 seconds down. Great performance by the Swiss rider, who wasn't really figuring too high up earlier on, but now really accelerated. So Annika Lena now is in second place. I'm trying to remember whether junior riders did have radios before, because I don't remember seeing junior riders with radios, as Lena now is just trying to recover. That was a huge effort.
Yeah, she certainly put in the second half of the course. So I think when you go out and you pace yourself for the first half of the course and you save something for the second half of the course, that you can finish in a lot more pain. Because if you go out hard at the start, you've just got nothing more to give at the end, and you just can't produce that power. But here we go with Sharp out on the course again, looking very good. She'll know the course well. And that's where we see the junior gears come into play there, a very high cadence. She's going uphill here, but keeping the gears quite low, keeping on top of the gear.
Yeah, she looks really strong, doesn't she? She has that little bobbing style, but Megan Jastrab is catching now the rider in front of her. So this rider, we know, has got a real strength. She's ridden some big races. She's got that power, but she's got that stamina, and she's coming up now to catch Natalia Kruzlak of Poland in front of her, and now she's got that focus, that determination to catch the rider in front.
We weren't really sure of her time trialling capability. She's had some fantastic road results. She rides very strong on the track with a couple of junior world titles under her belt, but having won 2 stages of the Healthy Aging Tour, and as you said in the Trofeo Binder course, she's a good road rider, but she seems to be going pretty well out there on the time trial.
She does. Well, you mentioned earlier she's already won junior world titles. Jastrab out on the course. She's already won many US national titles, and she could be the rider who is going to take the early lead in this race. But here comes Amelia Sharp. Now I'm surprised that Colinelli has gone quicker. The Italian rider, Colinelli, is now setting the standard out on the course for everyone else to beat. 10 minutes 26 seconds. She was 6th in the European Championships. That's a very fast time from Colinelli, and maybe a surprise from Amelia Sharp. Jastrab, though, kicking on hard now to try and catch the rider in front. This is a real incentive.
Yeah, a huge advantage to have a rider in sight. You know you're on a good ride no matter what at a World Championships when you catch a rider, and for Jastrab this will just be extra motivation. And not only that emotional, mental side of it, it actually does give you a physical advantage as well. So you are to take a safe distance passing the rider so you don't get that slipstream, but you certainly do get a lot of advantages from catching a rider.
Back now to the start ramp, and the next rider to go is the Dutch rider, Leonie Bos. This rider potentially could be a medal winner.
We nearly have to say that about all the Dutch riders, don't we, that start
true.
here at the World Championships. But we still have the favourite of the race on paper to come at the end of this competition. Van Anrooy, she is the favourite, but you never know with the Dutch riders. They're all so competitive. Another finisher here, just a little bit off the pace for the Spanish rider.
This is Mondarian as she comes up to the line, and it doesn't beat the time of Courinier of France, but we know that Sofia Colinelli, the 6th place rider in the European Championships, is the fastest rider out on the course at this moment in time. Let's see whether she can translate that to being the winning time. So the Spanish rider is the 10th rider to complete the course, coming up to the line then. Amelia Sharp is maybe not producing the speed that we expected, but some riders will ride a bit more steady and then accelerate later. This is Maileeva of Russia. We haven't had a chance to see her yet. Looks very efficient on the bike. That's a great style.
Certainly got very strong core stability there. It looks like she spent a lot of time on the time trial bike, and I think at a championship that can make a huge difference.
Now, this rider was in the top 10 in the European Championships. Lucy Meyerhofer of Germany. You can see the focus from her, counting down to the race start and getting herself going. I think we are expecting to see something good from this rider. Through the first corner.
The Germans do tend to produce time trialers from a young age that are very, in the women's especially, that it may be riders that are not so confident in a peloton and they choose to specifically just work on their time trial. So here we see
Jastrab's gone past.
She's caught and passed, so we missed that pass, but she is now in front.
Goes into this left-hander. It's got a really tricky little bend on it, this one. You can go a bit wide, but Jastrab comes out of that nicely. She's going to set herself up for the climb of Parliament Street, and then we'll see whether she can set the standard to beat. Currently, it's still Leah Courinier of France who is the leading rider, but Jastrab now onto the climb in the sunshine. Behind her is the rider she's caught. Can she now go into the hot seat as the fastest rider at the end of this individual time trial of 13.7 kilometres? Jastrab is nearly there, riding on a pro team bike for Rally UHC. Just in front of her, though, is the Mexican rider, Velasco. She's going to cross the line now, and Velasco finishes. Doesn't set the fastest time, but not far behind. We can see Megan Jastrab as she makes her way now to the finish line. Jastrab just trying to get that last little bit of energy out, and she is going to set the fastest time. No doubt about that. This has been a very, very good time trial by the American. The time to beat 23:31.21 for Megan Jastrab, and she's going to smash that by nearly 30 seconds, if not 30 seconds exactly. Courinier's time goes. Jastrab goes top of the leaderboard with a ride of just over 23 minutes.
Well, the question is it enough? It's a great ride. Fantastic. She will be happy with that for sure. Probably happy that it's over, but there's still more pain to come once you cross the finish line. It doesn't stop right there. Another 5 minutes. For some people, especially when I did a big effort like that, it could be half an hour of pain. But there we see.
Wow, she knows. That was a big beating of the time of the French rider. Look at Megan Jastrab trying to recover now. That was a huge, huge effort.
Yeah, as I say, she's happy with the ride, thumbs up, but can't give any more happy emotions right now. That is a really painful moment in the first few minutes after a big effort like that. So Italy out on the course now.
This is Colinelli. Her time at the intermediate time split, 10 minutes and 26 seconds. And Colinelli is potentially going to go faster than Jastrab if she can continue with this effort. You'll notice that the Italian juniors always ride the X-Team Sky time trial bikes.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the Italians are one of the nations that do put a lot of time and effort into their junior riders. and in the last couple of years also into their track program as well. Irish rider Gillespie out on the course there. Haven't seen much of her ride yet.
No, Lara Gillespie, the Irish team, based predominantly now, their track squad down in Mallorca. They train on the track in Palma. They have chosen, because they don't have an indoor track, to just slowly but surely build their program, and now it's paying some dividends. They've had a nice setup there for a long period of time, and we're starting to see better and better performances from the Irish. Gillespie into the right-hand turn now, and she'll start to accelerate towards this intermediate time split as we see the arrival of Island of Norway. Jastrab's time.
It's pretty impressive, and that just gives us more of an indication now. Riders crossing the line in 5th place for Island, but 54 seconds off the pace of the American. And that's what we said. We don't, I mean, we've seen a bit of riding of Jastrab this year, but we don't generally see the Americans race too much in Europe. So Chloe Dygert, a big name for the women's time trial tomorrow from the USA. The big question mark, because the same thing, she doesn't race so much in Europe, so we're not really sure how she's going to field.
Well, we saw her in the Colorado Classic a few weeks ago, and she won every stage.
Yeah, which is why, you know, her name is amongst the favourites for tomorrow. But the likes of, you know, Van Vleuten and Anna van der Breggen, we haven't seen Chloe Dygert from the USA race against these riders in the time trial. So we do know she's on top form, Chloe Dygert. It's pretty exciting, actually.
Yeah, it will be very exciting to see how she does. When you see her ride on the track, when she's riding the team pursuit, she literally just drags the American team in the last couple of laps into the finish. She is an absolute powerhouse. Lara Gillespie safely through that turn, now trying to not shave off too much speed as she tries to get as close to that right-hand apex as she possibly can, and now she's going to accelerate up this little climb. Let's take a little look then as she makes her way up this climb. We said that she was safely through there. There's a little replay. Here she goes. Ooh, look at that. Wow, that was close.
Well, she did well to hold that up. That can be, obviously she's hit a bump and her hands just come straight off the handlebars, so that could have ended a lot worse than it did. So she's back in rhythm now and looking very strong. Yeah,
that was really tough. That, if she had not managed to ride that, that was the ribs straight onto the handlebar stem, and you do all sorts of damage if you come off like that. That was very, very lucky. That'll have got the adrenaline going if it wasn't going already. As we see the arrival then of the next rider up towards the line, and this is the Russian rider Mylieva, who's actually been looking good out on the course, and not far behind her is the next rider. And I'm not sure, is that Colinelli coming? No, she's so Mylieva with Diana Bukhanova just behind her from Kazakhstan, but I don't think Colinelli's going to be far behind. Mylieva looks very, very good on the bike, but she's not translating that to straight line speed as she comes up to the line then. 5th fastest time, 38.4 seconds down. Here comes Colinelli. Is this going to be the fastest time? Has Jastrab accelerated over the second phase of this individual time trial? Colinelli set the standard for everyone else to beat out on the course, and this is looking like a good time here from the Italian. Colinelli then coming up towards the finish, 6th in the European Championships. The time to beat, 23:00.68. Colinelli then is making her way towards the finish. The Italian's always good in the junior women's time trial, and she is going to go into the hot seat, top of the leaderboard by 9.07 seconds, 22:51.61 for the Italian.
A very impressive ride, and that's the thing about the Italians. They seem to lift when they come into the team environment here at the World Championships, and just nothing left there, nothing left at all. She's given everything for this ride. She would have known that she was in the hunt for a medal with a time, you know, being competitive against the time of the American rider, so she's definitely completely empty. We get some images over there. She's got nothing left.
She has given everything she possibly could. She's trying to recover here. What a time trial by Colinelli. She's just saying that. Oh, ciao. Yep.
She's got enough energy there, but she's in a lot of pain.
Lovely reaction from the juniors. This is the current standings. Colinelli leads, Jastrab second, Courinier in third place. 9 seconds separating the top two. And that time, the first rider under 23 minutes, 22:55.61 from Colinelli. The arrival then of Amelia Sharp of Great Britain behind Colinelli. Amelia Sharp racing into Parliament Street. And now she'll make her way up towards the line. I don't think this is going to be in the medals.
Well, you said she looked fantastic on the bike, but just not producing the power. So something to work on in future years. And I think it's really important that she's been here at the World Championships and experienced being a part of the national team, racing in front of these home crowds. It's incredible how much nerves can play a part in a big event like this. It's possible that she's capable of a lot more power, but on the race day, if you let those nerves get to you, and that's why they send juniors to the World Championships that may not be in medal-winning form or condition yet, but they get that experience, they get that out of the way, so when they develop over the next year or two, they've already experienced the whole hotel with all of the athletes, and, it can be quite overwhelming. So great for her to be here, Sharp, and to just put this down as an experience and something to work on for the future.
Well, she'll really get the experience. The big crowds, the people of Yorkshire will cheer every single British rider all the way to the line, but Amelia Sharp then crosses the line and completes her individual time trial. Out on the course, Colinelli is definitely the rider to beat. She is in the hot seat now. 22:55.61 is the time to beat. And we'll be seeing the start very soon of the last few riders to go who are the race favourites. And we'll look forward to seeing how they do. Out on the course now, this is Leonie Bos of the Netherlands. She's 12 minutes into her ride. And she is now working her way over these little ascents, which are quite difficult. If you'd like to message us today, we haven't mentioned that, you can get hold of both Rochelle and I, at Rochelle Gilmore and at Ant McCrossan. And don't forget, throughout these championships, follow at Yorkshire 2019 and at UCI_cycling as well. And that's where you can keep up to date with everything that's going on. Here's the intermediate time split. Bos is 0.39 of a second down. So Leonie Bos is a rider who we've identified as a possible medal contender, and that is translating on the road, and she's looking good.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how strong she comes home. The Dutch do have a lot of experience, that's for sure, and it's going to be close. I mean, these time checks at the intermediate checkpoint lets us know that we've seen some great rides so far. We've got the favourites still to come.
Campos up to the line for Portugal. Finishes 11th fastest so far. 1 minute 23 seconds down at the end of this very tough time trial. And Campos is in. There she is. She's happy with that performance. I think she's kind of enjoyed it, even although it hurt a lot.
Yeah, she recovered quite quickly now. Smile on her face and a lot of communication. They are very vocal, the Italians. They like to communicate. So, yeah, she'll be excited and enjoy her time in that hot seat. It'd be interesting to see if she can stay there for the World Championship. We say the Italians lift, but there's still some very strong riders to come.
This is Naomi Rugg. You say they're loud. We could hear the Italian commentators who are not far away from us going mad when she was coming in towards the finish line. Naomi Rugg safely through that corner for Switzerland. And the two riders who we may anticipate who could be coming in with fast times, Leonie Bos and Lucy Meyerhofer. This is the next rider to go, Arati Pugfabregas. who's about to get started for Spain. Rolls down that ramp, gets into that aero tuck as soon as possible after she goes through the right-hander. 15th rider from the end to go, and we're now getting down to the riders who are the kind of seeded riders for this world title. But as Rochelle and I said right at the start, anything can happen in women's junior racing, and that has been proven to be true with Sofia Colinelli and Megan Jastrab going early, setting good times. But we still have the favourite of the Italians, Camilla Alessio, who hasn't started yet. She goes as the second to last rider to go. Silver medalist last year, 4th in the European Championships, and she is expected to be quicker than Colinelli.
Yeah, we would definitely expect her, after a silver medal at last year's individual time trial World Championships, to be a favourite for today. There has been a lot of talk about Van and Roy of the Dutch team. Obviously, we've got a hope in Ellie Backstead for Great Britain. She's not had the best preparation, her dad was saying this morning. And what about a family to come from for Ellie Backstead? So we know a lot about her father, Magnus Backstead. He's been joining us in the commentary in recent years as well. But a winner of Paris-Roubaix, amongst many other things. Winner of
Paris-Roubaix, and her mum was a superb rider on the track. She was a top-class sprinter at both Commonwealth level and World Championship level. So she's both got the stamina of a Paris-Roubaix winner in her genes and the sprint speed of one of the best track riders ever to come out of Wales, her mum.
Yeah, to have those genes is amazing, but I think one of the bigger benefits is coming from a home environment where you have a surrounding, your parents and your support, that understand cycling and sports and the psychology of it. They've been there, they've done that. Personally, I come from a family where my brothers do sport and we loved it, but my parents weren't athletes, so it's I think it's great for juniors to have parents that are very understanding.
Also, we're told that her sister is just as quick.
Yeah, Zoe Backstead, so a name for the future, that's for sure. Today, all the hopes are lying on the shoulders of Ellie Backstead, trying to kind of talk things down, because as a junior, it's very hard to handle pressure, and I'm sure she knows and feels that she's capable of a medal here, that's for sure. But it's just all about the ride on the day, isn't it? She's had some superb performances this year, but the World Championships is such a different thing. People made that comment, it's just another race. Well, it's very, very hard to be just another race with the atmosphere and just the procedures around everything with the media and, you know, going to the start ramp and having your bike checked and just, you know, the professional personnel that are around. It's all very overwhelming, so it's hard to just, you know, treat it as just another race.
It's certainly not just another race. Julia Kowalska of Poland is now going out on the course. We still know that Colinelli is the fastest rider at the hot seats and has also been setting the standard out at the intermediate time splits.
And a catch here, the Swiss rider, number 20, that's Naomi Rugg. She's just passing another rider out there on the course, and we have been talking about how difficult the passes might be if they happen in corners and things like that, but everything we've seen so far from the 2 days of competition, a very safe circuit out there. So now Jensen, the Danish rider, just coming in 2 minutes and 5 seconds off the pace there of Colinelli, the Italian, who sits in the hot seat. Another rider who's completely emptied herself out there on the course. As we now come to the first Belgium rider we've seen on the starting ramp, Belgium, Julie de Wilde. A very proud nation when it comes to cycling, the Belgians. Julie de Wilde, she's had some great results this year, developing quite nicely as well. Just taking it calm into the first corner for Julie de Wilde.
The Belgian rider underway, Julie de Wilde. and out on the course. Just to remind you then that the top three in the hot seat, Sophia Colinelli, 22 minutes 51.61. Megan Jastrab of the United States of America, second, 23.0068. And the French rider, Léa Courinier, in the third place, 23.31.21. 39.6 seconds separating the riders, as we see Acevedo out on the course for Mexico. Not far until we see the likes of Olausen and the rest of the riders that we think could take the medals, but who's to say that Sophia Colinelli and Jastrab won't still be on the podium at the end of the morning?
They're two extremely strong riders, and the thing is the time gaps are actually quite significant for the junior women. They're racing over 13.7 kilometres here at the World Championships, and we were talking about, you know, restricted gears. They're not allowed to, they're all riding the maximum possible gear that they can, so we didn't expect to see too much time differences in the results. But if you look now, there's 39 seconds between first and third, so that's quite a big gap on such a short circuit. And this is one of the shorter time trials that they ride for the juniors. They're normally riding anywhere from 20 to 30 kilometres for an individual time trial, so 13.7, a very short time trial for the junior women today.
Zoe Tar-Perez about to go for the United States of America. She'll know already that her teammate Megan Jastrab has set a good time, but this is the more ranked rider in the United States of America. And I know that they've got a good team here with them. Nicola Cranmer, who is the team owner of the Show Air 2020 team. She's arrived here to look after the American squad as well with the rest of the coaches. But the Americans are building up their coaching staff and their infrastructure quite significantly. But look at this time. This is Leonie Bos of the Netherlands. Colinelli's time, 22.51.61, and this rider is getting close to the top of Parliament Street. Is she going to set the fastest time? This is Leonie Bos. She looked good out on the intermediate time split. She was just behind the time of Colinelli, but this looks like it may well be the fastest time for the Netherlands. Leonie Bos making her way up towards the finish line. The time to beat, 22.51.61, which looked like a really fast time, but Leonie Bos has smashed it. 14.11 seconds quicker.
That's an incredible time difference. We've seen two strong rides out there already, and the Dutch rider Leonie Bos has gone out there and absolutely smashed it. So we know now that, you know, we thought the times were good, but to have a fastest time at this point of 14 seconds quicker than the second rider, it's a big difference. So that was a very strong ride from Leonie Bos.
We identified her as a possible medalist here, and she's come up with the goods. Bearing in mind that the intermediate time split, she was less than a second down on the time of the leader, Sophia Colinelli, and by the finish, she's taken 15 seconds out of her.
That's what we see a lot with the Dutch, being so experienced and having so many idols to look up to and learn from and get advice from, especially in the national team. There's so much competition in the Dutch national team, and obviously pacing yourself here. They would have spoken to the team yesterday, the Netherlands, about how to best pace, and she's taken a lot away from that. So a great ride from Leonie Bos.
That's very, very impressive. The top three then in the hot seats now. Leonie Bos of the Netherlands, Sophia Colinelli of Italy, and Megan Jastrab of the United States of America. Ella Wiley of the New Zealand team. This afternoon they have a possible winner in the New Zealand team who's got 2 world records on the track. So we'll wait and find out how the New Zealanders do both in this race and this afternoon. Only 8 riders left to take to the start of this women's junior time trial. This is the favoured Italian rider, Camilla Alessio, who is now one of the older juniors. Last year she was young, and this is Eleanor Backstead, who was the bronze medalist last year. So both these riders took medals last year. Camilla Alessio was the silver medalist, Eleanor Backstead was the bronze medalist. Out on the course with Kowalska. So Leonie Bos now will make her way into the hot seat and she will sit there and she'll wait patiently to find out whether she does take the gold medal. We're in number 13 as we see Meyerhofer come into the finish line. Surprisingly, the time here of Meyerhofer is not really troubling anyone. She was 9th in the European Championships. She's a good road rider. Meyerhofer finishes 1 minute and 3 seconds down. That's a big, big difference.
Yeah, a huge difference on this course. So here we see Leonie Bos. She is heading to the hot seat as the leader. Netherlands were the winner of the junior women's time trial last year. However, that rider is now in the elite category. So the silver medalists and the bronze medalists are probably the favourites on paper for this year's World Championship. Now we see another rider heading off the ramp.
Daniela Soler of Colombia is now underway. And we've got our last 7 riders coming up. Don't forget you can message both Rochelle and I on our Twitter feeds at Rochelle Gilmore, at Ant McCrossan, and don't forget to follow at UCI_cycling and at Yorkshire 2019. You can also download the app of Yorkshire 2019 if you want to keep in touch with all the action throughout this great week of racing, as Van Rensburg reaches the line for South Africa with a great ride. 4th fastest, 35.74 seconds down on the time of the leader, Leonie Bos.
Yeah, I think she'll be relatively happy with that ride. I mean,
with the dropped handlebars.
Yeah, she's got just a aero bars on her road bike there, which is interesting that I haven't seen more riders opt for that here, because there is a few technical corners, but there is some long straights as well. So it may be a case of just not having access to a time trial bike, not having spent a lot of time on it, or that she prefers that bike. But I think that was a pretty impressive ride.
It was a very good performance by the South African. Here's confirmation then of how we look. Van Rensburg, 4th fastest, but the top 3 remain. Leonie Bos of the Netherlands, Sofia Colinelli of Italy, and Megan Jastrab of the United States of America. 23.18 seconds down. Leonie Bos has got a significant advantage. It's going to take some performance to beat that.
You're right there, Anthony. It really is a fantastic time. To be off so late in the seedings as well, and to post a time that much faster, 14 seconds faster than Colinelli, who we thought did a fabulous ride, the Italian. And we're just following Julie De Wilde out here on the course.
You just noticed there that she's spun out. She's got no more gear left on that bike, as she just had to freewheel, and this is where the aerodynamics, Rochelle, take over before you get to these corners.
You know, it was one thing I was just going to comment on, that she should be a little bit in a more aero position, but when you see the difficulty of the corners, perhaps she didn't want to pick up too much speed, scared of those corners. But like we said before, you can win and lose 3 seconds on depending on how you take the speed into this little climb. She's hit it very powerfully, so it'll be interesting to see how her time goes. Another rider coming into the finish here, as we've got all the favourites now getting very nervous at the start line. Yep,
Yandova reaches the line. This is our next rider from Chile, Catalina Sotocampos. 14th in this World Championship last year when she was her first year as a junior rider. I have to say, though, the junior numbers in terms of 50 riders in women's cycling taken to the start, that is increasing and increasing.
Yeah, it's a great number of starters to have at a Junior World Championships. Kiwi rider Wiley here, she is looking very powerful indeed. Reminds me of seeing the New Zealand team in the past, Linda Willemsen. She was riding a very similar style to this, former world champion in the individual time trial for the elite women.
Does remind me of Linda Willemsen, exactly the speed and the look of how she rides. Really powerful.
You see when these junior time trial riders get their face very close down into the aero bars, that they've really concentrated on setting up their position and just taking advantage of the possibilities of the aerodynamics. You can see here just coming into a corner though, but when a rider gets really into the zone in a time trial bike and they're producing maximum powers, you can see the riders that get right into the tuck, that they've put some effort into their aerodynamics and their position.
This is a good performance here by Naomi Rugg of the team of Switzerland. 22:37.50 is the time to beat of Leonie Boss. Rugg making her way up Parliament Street towards the conclusion of this individual time trial. But Leonie Boss's time not troubled. Colonelli's is going to come up now as the second fastest, 14.11 seconds down. Naomi Rugg now almost at the finishing line. There we can see it just in front. She's making her way up towards that now. And the Swiss rider may be starting to fade away to somewhere inside the top 10 as she reaches the conclusion of this individual time trial. Respectable performance by Naomi Rugg of Switzerland with the 4th fastest time, just dropping Van Rensburg into 5th.
That finish straight is really, really tough.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's tough to walk up in the morning.
Yeah, it's a tough finish straight, and it looks relatively flat on the TV screen, but it's not, and it certainly does hurt. You can see the faces and the pain coming up that finish straight.
Next rider to go, this is one of the race favourites, Shirin van Androoy of the Netherlands, European champion. About to get underway. Let's see whether she can beat her teammate, Leonie Boss. She's expected to go quicker. Let's see whether she does. Choosing to ride with a fully carbon bladed front wheel as well on this terrain.
That was an aggressive start. One of the most powerful aggressive starts that we've seen. You know, had to hit the brakes coming into that first corner, which haven't seen riders go off the ramp that explosive before. So she is on a mission to see if she can better the time of her teammate, Leonie Boss, at the top of the leaderboard for the moment.
I guess the danger for her is that she's heard Leonie Boss has gone so quick. You go out way too hard, you get to that intermediate split, then thereafter there's the little kickers, and then suddenly you're in the red. That's going to be the hard point for all these riders coming up now. Although last year, I must remember, Eleanor Backstead, in her performance in the bronze medal position, I had some messages during her time trial from Magnus, her dad, who was seriously nervous, watching at home actually. He wasn't at the World Championships, he's here today, but he thought she'd gone out too hard, too early, and he didn't know if she could hold on.
Well, I've spoken to him also this morning, and he's nervous. And it's funny, as a parent of an athlete, you can be more nervous when your children are racing rather than when you were actually racing. So it's always hard to watch someone, easier to be in the race yourself. Garriva on the line for Russia.
Only 3 riders to go now. This rider was 7th in 2018 and was the silver medalist in the European. Oops.
Bit of a slip of the, it just means that the gear wasn't in place properly when she put power down, slipped a little bit. Could have been pretty nasty that, but good save.
Underway then. You were saying about, let's take a look then. This is what happened. Oh, the wheel slipping as she started, but luckily held it. Now there's no major water on that start ramp, just the tyres a little bit damp. Coming up to the finish line, and this is Berton of Luxembourg, 157 down, 23rd place. Boss stays at the top of the leaderboard. Talking about parents being nervous, I was watching the other night a documentary, an interview about with Ronaldo, the footballer, who says that his mum he can't have her in the stadium anymore because she's so nervous. He has to have someone walk around with her constantly while he's playing, even now when he's played hundreds and hundreds of football matches. Jancic coming up to the line for Slovenia.
Well, it's not going to be long now until Magnus Backsted's going to be quite nervous with Ellie Backstead out on the course. Definitely a medal winning potential there for Great Britain.
The next rider to go, I think this rider is the race favourite, Camille Alessio of Italy, silver medalist last year, 4th in the European Championships. She gets started She's a pretty formidable rider as a junior. And she's now going to set into this rhythm. She knows already that her teammate is in the silver medal position, Sofia Colinelli, out on the course with the rider from Colombia, Soler. So Soler making her way along this course. Let's take a little look at this replay. This is her coming in towards this left. Oh!
Yeah, just lost the back wheel on the white line there. That's one thing. When the roads are wet and dry and wet in these corners, you really do need to cross those white lines on a little bit more of an angle and be cautious of not hitting the brakes while you're on those white lines. They are super slippery.
They certainly are. Well, she proved that there as we look here at the American rider who has seen her teammate already produce a good performance today. Zoe Tarperez up towards the line then from Jen Kosova of Slovakia, who's going to be just inside the top 10 at this moment in the race, or just outside, in fact, 12th fastest, 34.7 kilometers an hour. This is the final rider to go. She's had a long wait, 50 riders. Eleanor Backstead, the bronze medalist of last year, but without doubt this year, the junior rider to watch. She makes her way off the start ramp. She has won so many bike races in 2019. She has ridden elite races like the Tour de Yorkshire, and there is no doubt that she's on a mission.
Certainly on a mission. She's had a pretty good start there. I think she wanted to pedal all the way through that first corner, but she got back on the power very quickly. But in a race like this, at this level, you cannot afford to lose time anywhere. You want a perfect ride, but as the ride goes on, you tend to forget about those little, moments where you could have made up a fraction of a second. But these time gaps are quite significant. So I think let's keep our fingers crossed for Ellie Backstead for a good ride today. Consistent and no little mishaps. But back to the Russian rider for now.
Out on the course for Agugariva of Russia, 7th in 2018. Looks good on the bike. Head quite high on those bars compared to some of the other positions we've seen. As we see the arrival of the Canadian Valieres. Going to be just outside the top 10, 1 minute and 3.46 seconds down. So all the riders have started, and now it's all about the last 15 riders making their way to the finish line to decide who takes the gold medal and which countries are going to get them. Right now, the Netherlands, Italy and the USA, as we see going into the Aero Tuck. We haven't seen anyone do this so far. Gariva of Russia right over the front of that bike.
Yeah, it's not really something that you see from the junior women, but interestingly, she sits quite high naturally on the bike, but then getting into a very aerodynamic position.
Here we go. Oh, do you see the back wheel bouncing as she got into there?
Yeah, a lot of weight over the front of the bike there, so you will get a bit of a bounce around at the back.
And also that disc wheel doesn't help you think that the bounce is even higher. They look great from the side. When you see the mixed relay yesterday, some of the teams with the designs on the disc wheels, you look to the side and they look absolutely superb when they're spinning. Out on the course then, and we are seeing this next rider making her way along the course. Let's see, Olausson of Sweden, who we've not really had the chance to see. Bronze medalist in the European Championships. She's taking risks.
Yeah, she really is pushing it. She wants to be on the pedal. She wants to be on the power as much as she possibly can. She'll be having, be interesting to know who the director is in the car there for Sweden. But, yeah, really trying to get every little inch of road, get power through those pedals.
Also, what's quite difficult, Rochelle, is they're wearing visors. And as you can see, the sunlight now means that you're going dark and light all the time. So your eyes are having to adjust and also look for what are still damp, wet roads, dry patches, white paint. There's a lot to take in.
Yeah, and anyone that's ridden in a time trial helmet before will know that they're only really comfortable in the vision being great when you're really in that one position, when you're not moving around, because the lens when you're not in the drops, it's not sitting in the right place, and you can see out below it and through the lens itself. So they can be quite an uncomfortable thing if you're not a rider who stays in position.
Well, Alson now labouring up this little climb out on the course. Some of these little climbs are really tough. This is Sukrobrik of Kazakhstan, making her way up the climb as we see the arrival of the next rider to the finish, and this is the Mexican rider who is arriving. This is Acevedo, 9th fastest, 59.99 seconds down on the time of the leader, which still remains Leonie Bos of the Netherlands with a time of 22:37.50. This is Pug Fabregas, who's had a difficult time trial, going to finish around about 3 minutes down. 2:50 down in 33rd place as she crosses the finish. This is Eleanor Backstead in the aero tuck. Hands absolutely solid, cadence high, keeping this speed on.
Yeah, super good position, and I'm pretty sure she has spent quite a bit of time on that bike, because I've seen from time to time some social media posts of Ellie on this bike, so she should be quite comfortable, and I'm sure she's done a lot of training for this, you know, being on the podium last year and, you know, having a chance to be on the podium at the World Championships and a home World Championships. It's a big deal, so I think she would have spent a lot of time on the bike. Like we said, Magnus Bagstead, he did indicate this morning that the preparation hasn't been perfect. She has had a niggling injury with a calf muscle, but you can only do what you can do on the day. So the time we've seen from the current leader, Leonie Bos, it was impressive, very impressive. So it's going to take a lot to beat.
It is going to take a lot to beat. This is not an easy ask right now. Eleanor Backstead, well, her dad now runs a bike fitting company, so you'd expect her to be absolutely dialed in on that position, which she is. You can see the head slightly below the back and the wind flow over that aero helmet perfect. She's trying to keep the head as up as possible so that the aero flow goes right over the back. She's got a perfect hand position and she's keeping the cadence on. We'll see whether she can set the fastest intermediate time split. 10 kilometres to go for Eleanor Backstead as we see the Belgian rider now coming up towards the line. This is Julie de Wilde. Into that aero tuck again, just trying to get that last little bit of energy out. She has a very low head position on that bike, which is nice and aerodynamic. Let's see whether she can get close. It looks like she's going to be just outside the medals, so we're still going to maintain Netherlands, Italy and the United States of America as the top three riders in the hot seats. And slowly but surely, Rochelle, time is ticking by, and Leonie Bos has been in that hot seat for quite a while.
Yeah, well, they're definitely the nations we thought would be up there amongst the top 4 or 5. It just might not be the riders that were, because I think it was a really impressive ride by Leonie Bos. So interesting to see the last few riders if they can come close to the time or beat Leonie Bos.
Well, Leonie Bos, I think, maybe has ridden an intelligent race, held back, and then really accelerated the second half. That's clever to do as a junior rider.
It takes a lot of skill and you know, confidence to be able to do that. You want to push more in the first half and to be able to really hold back. You know, it's not often that riders hold back too much and they think that, oh, I waited too long to give everything. It's more often that they say, I gave too much too early.
Here's the arrival of Zoe Tar Perez. She's coming up to the line. Look at this. Tar Perez goes second fastest with a time of just 4.6 seconds slower, and she came out of nowhere.
Yeah, this is what we say, why it's so exciting about junior racing. I mean, she was one of the favourites on the start, but we hadn't seen how she performs against an international field. So a really strong ride there, only 4.5 seconds off Leonie Bos. So now we have a new rider and she's happy with that ride.
That was a great performance by Zoe Tar Perez. Silver medal position at the moment. Pushes her teammate Megan Jastrab into 4th. And let's just recap on the current standings. Leonie Bos, 22:37.50. Zoe Tar Perez 2nd, 4 seconds down, and Sofia Colinelli in third. The Italian rider, 14.11 seconds down. A big surprise then. That's very, very impressive. Let's take a look then at the Norwegian rider.
It's a nice sound when you can hear
the disc
those
wheel
disc wheels. It's not many times in the year that you really get to hear that sound, and it's super, super nice. Back with Ellie Backstead out on the road. Great Britain's hope for a medal. We know she's capable of it. As we said, not the perfect preparation, but let's see what she's got today.
Let's see Backstead out on the course. Let's take a look at the replay. Here's Eleanor Backstead into that corner. I don't know what she was doing there. Oh, that was very, very close. She looked to me like she tried to put her hands onto the bars at the wrong moment.
Yeah, when she put her hand back onto the aero bar, that's when the weight distribution of the bike wasn't so good. Maybe came on back onto the aero bar a little bit too hard. The back flipped out. She did a really good job to recover that. Not many riders would be able to do that. And as we said, you know, you can't afford to have these little mishaps, and she's on a good time, a really good time. This is looking good.
This is good considering she's almost crashed. Backstead then making her way up towards the point. Gariva is the fastest rider, the Russian rider who's gone through. 10:15.08. Eleanor Backstead is making her way to the split. She is just 0.79 down, despite almost crashing out on the course. She mustn't take too many risks, but this rider is on a mission.
She's on a good time now, second through that first time slip. And let's not forget that the Dutch rider, Vos, came home super, super strong. So she's going to have a second half really, really strong. But there you have after the 6.3 kilometre mark. So
Gariva is the fastest to that point, the Russian rider who was third from the end. Second place Backstead, 0.79. Then it's Shirin van Ondrooij of the Netherlands, 11.52 down. Then Colinelli, then Boss. And so far, Camila Alessio is not showing on the scoreboard as a top rider. Willie of the New Zealand team, fifth fastest, a respectable ride for her, 30 seconds down on the current leader. The standings still remain the same. Boss, Tar Perez and Colinelli, the top three. It almost looked like Eleanor Backstead going into that corner. She suddenly went, right, I'm going to go into the aero tuck, did it too early, locked everything up. There's just things going on in your mind.
This is why I say some riders will have, certain areas where they know they need to be in a certain gear. I think with Ellie Backstead, she forgot to change down gears to accelerate out. So she was ready for the corner, and then she thought, don't forget, she's changing. She went to her aero bars to change the gears. When she went back, a lot of riders, as they're fatiguing, getting a little bit nervous in those corners.
They're throwing it into the bends, aren't they? Wow. This is the rider who, Shirin van Ondrooij of the Netherlands, the European champion, third fastest through the split. But remember, her teammate rode the second half even quicker, 11.52 seconds down. Just having a look to see where Alessio is. She's 13 seconds down at the intermediate time split. Camila Alessio.
Doesn't look good for Alessio. She's pedaling well, but it just doesn't look like the power's there. So it'll be interesting. Hopefully Ellie can push through this hard section of the course. It is a very, very hard section. And she would have the feedback. I don't see a radio there, but I think she'd have the feedback that she's on a very good time.
Yeah, that would calm her down, the same as the other riders. But Gariva is the current fastest rider on the course for Russia. But can Alessio accelerate? Wilma Lausson of Sweden is also in the ballpark. as far as this is concerned. So still, the medals could be going anywhere. And this is Olausson making her way up towards the finish line for Sweden. Can she put herself into the medals? She's been riding strongly out on the course. She's still going well as she makes her way towards the line. Is this going to be the fastest time? Olausson of Sweden is going to go into the hot seat with the fastest time. 4 seconds faster for the Swede.
This is an incredible ride from the Swede. They certainly do have some great personnel for motivation. You can see the smile on the Swanee's face waiting for her there at the finish. One last little push, but this is a surprise, and this is why junior racing is so exciting, because this is a rider that we wouldn't have counted in for the medals, but that's a fantastic ride by Olausson.
She has gone from 12.66 seconds down, but she was right in the same ballpark as Leonie Boss, who was at 12.19.
Which means we can't count out Alessio, because
No.
she was 13 seconds down at the check. So a lot of these riders, the ones that we've seen with fast time checks, have blown up in the finish. So very impressive ride.
This could be a nail-biting finish. For the riders who've gone out hard at the beginning, is this going to be their day? Olausson is the leader now for Sweden. Leonie Boss of the Netherlands in second place, and Zoe Tar Perez of the USA. And I'm trying to think when a Swedish rider won a medal in the Junior World Championships. We'll go back and have a look. This is Van Androoij, who is looking good on the course also. Similar time to Boss and to Olausson. She was 11.52 seconds down at the intermediate split, so she's got a chance. But this was the fastest rider so far today at the intermediate time split, 10 minutes 15.08. And let's see whether she can hold on all the way to the line.
She looks good. She still looks like she's in control. She's not all over the place. A good position on the bike.
She looks efficient, doesn't she, the way she's riding? It doesn't look like she's absolutely flat out spinning crazily. She just looks composed and just turning the pedals over.
Yeah, the position's not as great as like an Ellie Backstead or some of the riders we've seen with a more aerodynamic position. Not too low in the front, but certainly producing some power.
Let's see if she can now make that a race-winning performance at the top of Parliament Street. The arrival of Catalina Soto Campos of Chile, who's going to be just outside the top 10 places. And after this, we have 5 riders left to finish. And the current standings, as we see, Soto Campos finished 12th fastest. Sweden in the hot seats as the leader, with Wilma Olausson, Leonie Boss of the Netherlands in second place, Zoe Tar Perez of the United States of America in third, Colinelli in fourth for Italy, Jastrab in fifth for the USA, and Ella Wiley of New Zealand in sixth place. Alessio, no, has to find something. The silver medalist of last year, one of the race favourites, if not the race favourite, trying to make her way now in to take the gold medal. Backstead has had a scare out on the course, almost crashing, but now has got to try and focus to bring home a medal for Great Britain to go with the mixed relay bronze that they surprisingly got yesterday when the Italians unfortunately had to puncture with Elisa Longoborghini. Here's the arrival of Shirin Van Androoij. Oops, just sneaks in there on the inside. This could be now the medal-winning performance, certainly at the moment in the hot seat. So suddenly, Rochelle, we're seeing this race change time after time.
Yeah, this is probably going to be a new fastest time for what was on paper one of the favourites for today's race. So Van Androoij, she's had a good ride. That line, it's so close but so far away. It's a tough finish, but I think she's just going to make it to post the fastest time of the day.
This is going to be the fastest time. Shirin Van Androoij, she comes up to the line now with even more acceleration, 13 seconds faster. She was 11 seconds down on the fastest time at the time split, and she's 13 seconds faster at the finish.
Well, that was an amazing ride. She's an amazing athlete. She certainly has the experience, and we could see that with her composed attitude on the stout ramp. She's won junior world titles. She's been, on the podium many, many times in many international events. For such a young age, she's had a lot of experience. So it wouldn't come to a surprise to her. She would expect nothing less than a victory here at the Junior World Championships.
European champion Shirin van Androoij now top of the leaderboard. This is Gareva. Oh, she went the wrong way. Oh, I can't believe it. She was on for a medal. She took the deviation just before the finish.
She was looking so fast too out there on the bike.
How did she do that?
Well, she's lost herself a good 12 or 15 seconds with that.
That's terrible.
And look at this, still a good time. She could have been actually contesting for the lead in today's race.
Gareva takes the deviation on
She's
the
still
run.
going to be close to the fastest time.
This is going to be very, very close to the gold medal. This is desperately disappointing for Gareva, the Russian. How did she take the deviation? The marshal was standing there, but she's still going to be top of the leaderboard. Gareva sets the fastest time. She looks around. Wow, she probably lost 10 seconds.
I'll tell you what, this will be a story if she takes home the gold medal after taking a wrong turn like that. It looked like it could have been anywhere from, 10 to 15 seconds that she lost.
How did she take the deviation? Here she goes. She's just going straight on. The marshal is pointing with the flag. He's standing in the way. And she takes the wrong turning. I guess the branding with Mappe there, you might think you're going there, but it's quite clear the marshal's pointing with the yellow flag, go the other direction.
Well, they do ride with their head down a lot in the time trials. And ultimately, at the end of the day, even though you might think it should have been blocked off, the cars need to go down to the deviation, and it's always the rider's responsibility to know the course. So it's a super unfortunate situation for the Russian rider, but she's on top of the leaderboard in the hot seat. It's absolutely amazing that that could happen.
She goes the wrong way, and she's still top of the leaderboard by 3.61 seconds. Here comes Camila Alessio, the silver medalist last year. Is she going to produce a medal-winning performance? She's still got a long, long way to go to the line. The time to beat, she's inside the last 300 metres, but it's a painful 300 metres. 22:16.23. Alessio is on a race against time at the bronze medal position. Wilma Alausen, she needs 16 seconds. Here's what would give her the bronze medal at the moment. Alessio was the race favourite. It's maybe not going to happen today. Up to the line, she's going to take, at the moment, bronze medal, 14.63 down.
Yep, third in the standings at the moment.
One more rider left to finish, and the standings are Gareva, Van Androoij, and in third place is Camila Alessio. One more rider left to finish. It's the British rider Zoe Backstead. I keep calling her Zoe today because we talked about her. Eleanor Backstead.
Oh, she's looking good. Can she make it for the gold medal?
Here she goes now. Eleanor Backstead making her way towards the line for Great Britain. This is going to be really, really close. 22 minutes, 16.23 seconds is the time of Gareva. Backstead almost crashed out on the course. Is it going to be gold? Is it going to be silver or bronze? She's very, very close to the finish line now. Great Britain's Eleanor Backstead making her way towards the line. She was one of the pre-race favourites. Is the time going to run out? This is going to be very, very close. Backstead is almost there. It's not going to be gold. It's going to be potentially a medal. Eleanor Backstead makes her way towards the line now to get inside the medals. 16.96 seconds. She's going to now reach the line. It's going to be enough for bronze again for Backstead. She gets on the podium. Gareva, despite going the wrong way for Russia, wins the gold medal. Shirin van Androoij is in second, Wilma Alausen in third place. Eleanor Backstead in third. Our results are a little bit all over the place on our screen today. They are not quite managing to update on the time, but Backstead looks like she's taken the bronze medal.
You see the emotions on the face there of our winner of today's Junior Women's World Championship time trial. That's a face of emotions and shock, but a fantastic ride. You can't take it away from her. It was a great ride from Ellie Backstead, very solid ride, but this rider today was a level above. She was. Let's
take a look at now the confirmed results, because our screens have not shown us anything over the last few minutes. Agil Gariva of Russia wins the women's junior individual time trial by 3 seconds from Shirin van Androoij of the Netherlands, with Eleanor Backstead of Great Britain in third place. What a performance by the Russian rider, who goes the wrong way with 200 meters to go, loses 10 seconds and still manages to win the gold.
A very, very impressive ride, and that's what we say about the juniors. We haven't seen, we wouldn't have had the Russian rider on top of our list for today's junior world title, but it was a fantastic competition, and Ellie Backstead, she beat the rider that was second last year, so she has to be happy with her performance today. Obviously she had a little mishap, would have cost her a few seconds, but a solid ride. I think Ellie can be very, very proud of that ride today.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very difficult to be highlighted as the race favourite, as you've spoken about all the time, and produce the goods, because the nerves, the anticipation, going last as well is very, very difficult. But what a story. The Russian going the wrong way and still winning gold.
Yeah, it's really incredible. It honestly is. Like, you normally, like we said, that you can't afford to make any mistakes here at the World Championships, and she made a very, very big mistake that cost her a lot of time. Here's Ellie Backstead. She probably doesn't know if she should be happy or disappointed at the moment, but a medal at the World Championships, I'm sure, you know, just giving partner there a bit of a hug. A lot of hard work would have gone into the preparation.
He said, "Don't scare me like that ever again," in that corner.
She had 2 mishaps today,
mum.
actually.
Yeah, Mum says stop crying.
Amazing, really well done, really, really proud of you. Good girl, good girl. Brilliant.
Thank you for not crashing, they say.
Yeah, she came close a couple of times, but that's the result of giving everything and riding on the edge, and she'll have to be happy. The press officer there for Great Britain, Abby. So she's been here before, she knows the process after a medal winning performance. But this is a rider we're going to see a huge future from in women's cycling.
We certainly are. The rumours are that she's going to the World Tour, and as one of the youngest riders in the World Tour, and it's not a surprise. We wait then for the podium ceremony and the interview, but Agil Gariva, 22 minutes 16.23. Sorry about some of our updates on times today, but between Rochelle and I, we've been trying to use every single possible way of giving you the times, which include looking at the gantry, which is across the road outside our commentary box window. Sometimes technology doesn't quite work the way you expect, and even at the finish, we haven't got the updated result, which has finally happened on my screen.
Yeah, it's been, like we said at the start of today's race, that junior racing is a difficult one to call, just because they don't race so often internationally throughout the season. So,
well, let's take a look down on Harrogate, and we'll hear now from the winner, Agil Gariva of Russia.
Agil, you're a world champion. What does it mean for you to be a UCI world champion?
Айгуль, ну ты чемпионка мира. Что для тебя означает это быть чемпионкой мира UCI?
Если честно, для меня не так важно стать чемпионкой мира UCI, как важно, чтобы все люди, с кем я живу, с кем я общаюсь, чтобы они поверили, что можно жить лучше, можно добиваться чего-то, можно делать ошибки и делать шаг вперед. Вот мои чувства.
Well, to be honest, to me, to be UCI World Championship, to be the UCI World Champion, means it's not that important then to make people who I live with, who I have good relationships, that they believe that you can live better lives, that you can make mistakes and then achieve some results afterwards, that you can be better, you can achieve something in this life.
Egil, what happened in that final bend when you went straight instead of on the right?
Что случилось, когда вот этот самый последний момент ты немножко не туда повернула? Что случилось?
Я знала то, что я еду первая, я знала то, что я очень мало выигрываю, и у меня, наверное, в голове что-то переметнуло, и я иди только вперед, и я никого не видела вокруг себя, люди стояли, давай направо, а я все равно вперед, не знаю, что случилось, но вот так вот произошло.
Well, I knew that I was the best, but I won just a small part of time. So, but still, I went forward, straight forward. There was a kind of mess in my head, and I was going just forward, and people showed me the way, just turn right, and I don't know what happened actually.
Well, thank you very much and congratulations.
Well, a lovely interview from the young Russian, saying that to win the world title for her is less important than showing everyone else that it's possible to achieve something in life.
Yeah, and especially her point on, you know, even if you make mistakes, you don't give up because anything's possible. So even with mistakes, you can go on to achieve great things. So really nice messaging in that interview.
The top three. Agil Gariva of Russia, Shirin van Androoij. Here's the replay of the riders who featured in the medals. Eleanor Backstead giving everyone a massive scare. That was the moment where everything nearly came to an end. In the end, it didn't really matter. She wasn't in the hunt for the silver. She's got back-to-back bronze medals in the World Championships. So to back that up and to do that is impressive enough. She crosses the line, bronze medal position. Shirin van Androoij of the Netherlands. A great performance from her. Rochelle commented when she started that she went out with real intent. She really focused, she sprinted through the first corner. We hadn't seen anyone really do that. And at the finish line, she set the standard for everyone else to beat. But the story of the day is all about Agil Gariva of Russia, having set the fastest intermediate time split out on the course.
Oh, and she had a slip.
She had a few problems today. She looked superb. She was using every possible advantage. Aero tuck, the back wheel bouncing all over the place, setting the standard at the intermediate time split, going the wrong way, and still winning the gold medal here in Harrogate.
And not panicking too much when she realised she'd gone the wrong way, so a good recovery there. It could have gone awfully wrong having to get off the bike and turn your bike around, but very relaxed and calm.
3 seconds. 3.61 was the winning margin. She had not too long to wait to find out she'd taken it, but a very, very emotional day for this young Russian rider, having gone the wrong way. Her coach just trying to compose her and say, it's okay. That was some finish. Well, Rochelle, what a day so far.
Yeah, it's been very exciting, as was yesterday, actually, in the mixed relay. So we've had 2 very exciting days. We've still got the men's junior time trial to come. We've seen some, just from our commentary box here on the finish line, we've seen a lot of the junior men on their time trial bikes just getting warmed up. And besides that, we see a lot of commissaires just checking the surface of the roads out on the course.
We're flying over Betty's Tea Room, which is on the right-hand side as the riders go up Parliament Street, celebrating its 100th anniversary this year. If you ever come to Harrogate, you have to go to Betty's Tea Room. Have you been?
Yeah, I ticked that box a few years ago at the Tour of Yorkshire. So, yeah, I'd love to go back in our busy schedule here. I'd love to find the time, but there was a really, really long lineup actually a couple of times that I've walked past. So yeah, very popular place, but I love nothing more than a cup of tea and a couple of scones.
That's where Rochelle's heading at lunchtime. Although we don't have much of a break between the start of the junior men and the end of this race.
There's Ellie Backstead just celebrating another bronze medal at the Junior World Championships.
You told me to scare myself.
She scared herself.
She was told to scare herself, and she did. Certainly did. She scared everybody. It was that moment of, I need to change gear. I need to put myself onto the aero bars. What do I do here? And then suddenly everything was locked up. We're getting ready for the presentation. A very confident Russian rider, saying she knew she was the best.
Yeah, it is interesting that she could have had that confidence and known that, but you did see from her, you know, her actions when she crossed the line, she turned around directly to look at the board like she knew that before that little mishap of going the wrong way, she knew that she was on a good time. So a very confident rider, and we've seen Russia produce good female time trialers before. London Olympics on the Olga Slosareva. Olga Slosareva was a sprinter, but Zablinskaya.
Yeah.
Still out there racing as well in the elites, so one to watch out in the women's individual time trial.
Getting ready then for the podium presentation of the women's junior UCI Road World Championship time trial. Two riders were on the podium last year who started here in this time trial, Camilla Alessio and Eleanor Backstead. Alessio finishes fourth. Backstead manages to secure the bronze yet again. And the European champion, Shirin van Androoij, is there as the silver medalist. And they hear the fanfare as the riders make their way onto the podium. The traditional fanfare of the medal ceremony of the World Championships.
La cérémonie des médailles des championnats du monde route UCI 2019 contre la montre individuelle junior femme.
Dr. Azam, the UCI Vice President, will present the medals.
Les médailles et le maillot sera présenté par.
The medals and jersey will be presented by Dr. Mohamed Raghi Azam, UCI Vice President.
Au troisième rang, et gagnante de la médaille de bronze de la Grande-Bretagne.
In third place and winner of the bronze medal, representing Great Britain, Eleanor Backstead.
Eleanor Backstead, bronze medalist today in the women's junior time trial. The medals being presented by Dr. Mohamed Azam, the UCI Vice President. And he is supported by Mrs. Sarah Ested, the Yorkshire 2019 board member.
In second place and winner of the silver medal, representing the Netherlands, Shirin van Androoij.
Shirin van Androoij of the Netherlands takes the silver.
Au premier rang, championne du monde et gagnante de la médaille d'or UCI, représentant la Russie.
In first place, world champion and winner of the UCI gold medal, representing Russia, Egor Gariva.
Egor Gariva, the Russian rider, is the world champion. Pull on the rainbow bands. She had problems at the start, problems near the finish, and still managed to secure the world title with a really stunning performance. 3 seconds faster than Shirin van Androoij and 10.93 seconds faster than Elena Backstedt. The world champion from Russia, Agil Gariva.
Presented by Mrs. Sarah Isted, Yorkshire 2019 board member.
La montée de Tissot sera présentée par
The Tissot Watch will be presented by Dr. Mohammed Raki Azam, UCI Vice President.
Mesdames et messieurs, en l'honneur de notre nouvelle championne du monde, assistons à l'hymne national de la Russie.
And now for the national anthem of Russia.
In honor of our new world champion, we present the national anthem of Russia.
Agil Gariva is the world champion for the women's junior time trial. Silver, Shirin van Androoij. And Elena Backstedt again on the podium in this world championship. Backing up last year's bronze medal with another bronze.
Mesdames et messieurs, ceci conclut notre cérémonie protocolaire pour le contre-la-montre individuel junior femme. Soyez les nôtres cet après-midi pour notre contre-la-montre junior.
Agil Gariva with the watch and her medal and the rainbow bands.
Award ceremony for our women junior individual time trial. But stay with us here this afternoon to attend the men's.
We have a little bit of a break and then we'll have the men's junior time trial coming up. It's a beautiful day here in Yorkshire. The sun is shining. It's a much nicer day than yesterday. So we're set for a great afternoon of racing with the men's junior time trial. This is the result. just to confirm to you the top 10. Gariva wins 22 minutes 16.23. Sharon van Anrooij of the Netherlands in second place. Eleanor Backstead of Great Britain takes the bronze. Then it was Alessio, who was the silver medalist last year, in fourth place. The run through of the rest of the riders for you. We're getting ready then for the junior men's time trial, and that will be coming up shortly. In the meantime, as usual, the rainbow band's being signed by Agil Gariva of Russia. As we look down Parliament Street, our schedule this afternoon, 1:10 is the start of the first rider, so 1 hour's time, the start of the first rider in the men's junior individual time trial. We'll be back in less than 1 hour for the men's junior time trial. We've seen Russia take gold here in Harrogate. From Rochelle Gilmore and I, goodbye, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.